Yo, what's going on, fellas? Your boy Huncho. Gonna be going over today's performance on SPY and QQQ. There was a couple mistakes that we made that didn't let us, take proper entries and execute correctly like we should have. A lot of it had to do with impatience and just having a hard read in the motion and the setup that it was giving us when really it was positioning itself for the move of the day. But, you know, we're gonna talk about what we did wrong here. So, first play we called here was QQQ puts. This was at 9:42, 7:04 puts. All right. So, what happened here? Okay, the puts did pay around like 20, 25%, right? But the problem was is the management, right? I sold half my position and the other half got cooked, right? Because I was looking for puts under 713, right? But we swept back up and we didn't really hold under that level until like around 1 p.m. once we finally had a clear breakthrough and everything else was lined up. So it's not often I usually play QQQ, but just because where we were sitting at, we were holding nicely around this key zone here. So a break under was going to give me conviction that we wanted to see more downside here. All right, so it's mainly SPY that I like to watch, right? But whenever they line up really well, whichever one I see that has more strength or more weakness, I saw that QQQ had a lot more weakness than SPY, so I decided to go on and take the play on QQQ because of where we were at and how it was, having a hard time holding up, especially the zone that we had down, and SPY was holding up. So I was just gonna be waiting for a spill on SPY, and then we would eventually see QQQ follow along with even more strength, right? But it was honestly a ping pong fest. It was chopping between pre-market high and pre-market low. I'm gonna show you guys a SPY chart just to give you guys a little more clarity. Let me see if I can pull up this indicator here. So yeah, there it is. All right, we have pre-market high, pre-market low. So we were ping ponging in between. We literally ripped off pre-market low at open, then we rejected off a pre-market high, retested again, zigzag until we finally got the break above here. All right, so now with QQQ, I'm gonna show you guys really quick. With QQQ, we made a mistake here. We should have waited for previous day low for the actual breakout continuation. But obviously, we made the same mistake and ended up rushing into the play. And the puts did pay, fellows, but it's just, it's not what we wanted to see because you guys know that. I always tell you guys take 20%, but I'm just sharing you guys my execution, my performance of the day. I know a lot of you guys did go green. You guys got paid, took a better entry than me. It paid. I'm just sharing with you guys what I did wrong and what was my mistake on it. Now with SPY, I should have known that there was going to be some form of upside because here's the thing. The zone was holding perfectly. Okay, we tested and we have so much confirmation here that SPY was eventually going to have a move to the upside. If we look at the heat map, right, all morning, what was the point of control? It was 740. Okay, and as we were holding up here, you guys see we ended up heading back up to its highs around 738 and almost near 740 here. So look at this, right? We ended up getting the move to the upside, breaking above our 738 zone. So and we even some people even took the call of what above 738.87. This ended up paying as well, but then we entered this area of consolidation, right? Now we eventually got the move to the downside. Okay, so what was my mistake here? My mistake here was the lack of understanding of what SPY wanted to do. Not that the puts were incorrect. There was going to be a flush, but it was not being patient enough to wait for the positioning, right? What happens here is that whenever the market wants to make a move or an aggressive move, there are certain things that it does. Either there's a breakout and retest or a pullback, right? to then continue. Okay, so you could call it the retracement, but like the breakout. But the thing is, there was no breakout here. It was within the box. It was in the range. So of 733 and 738, we didn't see no solid breakout of either of those areas, right? Nor a retracement and continuation. So whenever it does this, what it's telling me is it's going to be positioning for a move. If we didn't hold above 738 here, if I didn't see no confirmation that we're going to continue holding up, which we didn't, right? Then that's telling me that this is a positioning day. So it's very hard for me to explain. This is kind of like if you guys know my style, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you're in the Discord, but when it comes to positioning, is that what happens is it's pricing in for an entry. You guys know whenever there's pullbacks and such, and then there's a big pump, it's it's all about positioning, right? It's in other words, some people like to call it market manipulation or whatever it might be, but they want to get in cheap. They want to hit your stops. They want to get everybody liquidated for them to get in at a cheaper price, right? That's the game, and if that makes sense, I hope it does. It's just my way of reading and how I've always seen and read the market to be able to give me, you know, confidence in entries and kind of get a feel of what the market's going to do or where it wants to head to. All right. So this is just pattern recognition. I've seen this before, but it was just a bad read on my end. And also with the VIX, I failed here because, if you guys see, we weren't able to hold above this 1917. So this was just, giving me a signal that SPY didn't want to really lose its support here, and then we even broke under 1878, and we could had a continuation to the downside. Now when we started to hit these 18 this 18 range in our next key pivots here, right? You guys see there was consolidation here. We finally reclaimed back up, and then this would have been a good setup here to confirm right around. If you guys look at 110 at 115 here, right? We had a solid hold and solid break above our zone. But look at SPY. Look at this at 110. So 110, 115. This would have been our signal, right? And obviously, just looking at this break under 738 back into the range, SPY was just going to give us that actual move of the day. So yeah, that was a bad read for me as well with VIX. I didn't wait for the setup, guys. That was my mistake. So the levels did do well, right? It was just about being patient and honestly just respecting them because look at this. We could have grabbed calls here. This would have paid us massively as well. So, but yeah, just backing up my bias on being bearish today. It did eventually, the move eventually did happen, but there's just some days where it's going to position. It's not going to give it to us in the morning where we are usually most active. Sometimes it's going to happen, after lunch, but that's the game, right? We just got to keep on keeping these things in mind and collect the data and just learn from them and move forward. If you guys have any questions, comment below, tag me in the chat, wherever this is going to be posted. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.